Hi everybody, it's Alison Dorant coming to you from Calgary, Alberta, Canada with my unedited art inspiration that kind of comes to me in the moments while I'm recording this video. And in front of me you'll see my art poetry for insights and inspiration 71 card artist deck. And I'm just going to start by pulling a card almost to set an intention for our video today. Oops. And these cards are 350 gram cardstock, which they're fairly high quality, but they're not as shuffleable probably as some people would like if they're really into shuffling with very flexible cardstock material. And so I'm just going to pull a card and see what we get. Have deep conviction for the things that you care about. And I really care about having a creative practice and having a daily practice. And for me, I feel like sharing that that passion that I have, it benefits me and hopefully it benefits others. And that's just the conviction that I have for my art practice. So this is one of my mountain paintings that I had done in my art journal. And it has a lot of really beautiful blues and turquoises. And today this video is going to be more about using purples in what I'm going to be doing, because I've heard from you all that you'd like me to crave more purples, so that's definitely something I'm going to do today. And I thought it would be fun just to show you how I like to kind of loosen up and break a blank page. And I'm going to just set my deck aside. And what I'm going to start by sharing is some of my favorite purples. So I don't choose purple very often. I often stumble on purple by mixing it almost by accident with my watercolor paintings. And I really love Beam Paints. So for those of you that have been following me for a while, Beam Paints is a wonderful Canadian watercolor company. This is a very well-loved palette, so my son and I will pick up, some paint stones and choose a number to kind of work out on this little round palette. So today I popped in a bunch of purples and I thought I would just share those with you all. And I'm working out of my Canson XL watercolor coil booklet just for this particular warm-up exercise. This is 140 pounds, which is a really good weight. I recommend, if you're new to watercolor, having a heavier weight paper if it's in your budget is great. This is such a good starter brand. There's other brands. 98 pounds is also good, but 140 pounds is better. And so, yeah, just what I'm gonna do is grab, this is some watercolor paper that I was just using as a scrap piece of paper, just doing some little notes while I was having lunch before doing this video. I'm gonna grab my spray bottle. And I'm gonna give these a spritz. I'm just gonna try not to spritz them over my hardwood floor or Oakley's in the other room, but sometimes I can't see him where he's on the floor. In here beside me, he loves to be with me all the time. And I am going to, it's just deciding, I'm not going to put on gloves yet. I'm just going to maybe zoom you all in. Oops, no, you were zoomed. That's okay, you were zoomed in. And so I'm going to start with showing you, I've done several palettes. This is a wooden palette where I had mounted, otherwise known as glued, the watercolor paper swatch to, this was Montmartre, so I had purchased this in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, here at a place called Home Sense. And they often have different sort of affordable art supplies there, and I just happened to see this palette, and I had an idea of mounting watercolor paper to it and then creating a painting and just hanging it with a ribbon or again on a nail in this palette form in my home. But I ended up doing this watercolor swatch with you all. So if you're a follower of mine, you've seen me do this video, and I'm going to be zeroing in on Blueberry Mountain by Beam Paints, and also Lilac, Amethyst, Blueberry Mountain, and Grape. So those are going to be some of the paints that I'm going to show you. I also had done another swatch, so you can just see down here there's Blueberry Mountain, there's Grape, Violet, which is such a deep pigmented darker hue, and then Lilac. Amethyst has a beautiful shimmer. So those are the little watercolor paints that I'm going to just start with, and I'm going to use my round number 12 Princeton brush, and I'm going to go with the lightest color first. So this little one is Lilac. And I just thought I'd show you, maybe I should, let me just see, do I have just a plain piece of watercolor paper? I might just use this page actually in my book. So there's Lilac. And then I'm gonna dip into Amethyst. So this is a beautiful sort of mica purple. Very similar to the lavender, but with a gorgeous shimmer. And then I'm gonna dip into Grape. And then last but not least, we'll go to Violet and Blueberry Mountain. So this one's Blueberry Mountain, this one is Violet. Such a beautiful purple. So that's Blueberry Mountain. And then this is, wow, that's, did I dip into the right one? Yeah, that is Violet. That is such a gorgeous blue violet. Really, really pretty. And then I'm gonna show you, so those are again from the company Beam Paints. I'm gonna just set that one aside. And thought I could show you a couple of my Kuretake paints from Japan. These wonderful little pans. Funny, I say Japan and then I'm thinking about pans. These are watercolor pans. This is called Old Mauve, and this is number 301. And this came in one of the sets I had. I can't recall which one. They tend to get a bit mixed up with just my creative process, but whoops, you can see I dropped some of the paint up there into, I think that was Grape, and it has, these are more like a gouache, so a combination of like a mix of a watercolor and acrylic, so more opaque. And it can be really fun to kind of drop in that opaque paint into some watercolor paint. So you can just see I'm dropping in some of the excess and getting that interesting blooming effect. And then after 301, we have number 139, and there's, I think this is a purple, yes. I had just kind of grabbed them without paying too much attention. When they're dark like this, it can be hard unless you have really good lighting. Now this, even though it's a Kuretake paint, this one is much more like watercolor. These two are quite similar. but I do find the Kiritake paints from Japan much more opaque, like working with a gouache where there's just not as much transparency, and that can be really great if you're trying to add contrast to your work. For instance, putting down a transparent color next to an opaque color. And that is beautiful. So that's very much just a darker, more kind of traditional purple, I'd say, with more of a bluish hue. Now, I am not good at color theory. I love to learn about color theory, but that's just not my expertise at all. So I just go with, how do you say, I recommend, there's some good YouTube artists, and I've just gotten into watching a couple that do more like color mixing. And so I'll link those. I think one of them I looked at this morning. I had a quick look of how to mix purple, and her name was Louise Fletcher. She has a huge following on YouTube, and just watching that one video, I really enjoyed it, and I thought she taught it in a way that was really easy to understand, and so I'll link that if that interests you at all. So I'm just gonna put these watercolors aside. And then I can also share with you some of my favorite gouache. So this is Red Violet, and this is by a company called Holbein, and this is the Acrylic gouache, and just the regular gouache. And I'm not going to get into the properties, but I'm just going to show you, these are just beautiful colors. So I'm just going to put a tiny bit of this. Whoops, that was quite a bit. This is a stunning color. A little bit goes a long way. So this is Red Violet D113 and acrylic gouache. So it acts almost, oh, is this one an acrylic? It has to say that acryla if it's the acryla one, which acts more like an acrylic paint. I'm not going to get into the properties of Holbein gouache because I do need to brush up on that myself, and there's really great representatives from Holbein that do videos, so I would just check out their website or go to a store that sells Holbein products, and then you can kind of get some information there. This is more of sort of a magenta, a red type purple, which is so beautiful. I really, really love that color. I'm gonna just put that one back. And this one is, what company? I'm just drawing a blank. Was that, well, this is Reeves Gouache. And this is just called Violet. And I just wanted to show you how many different violets, different purples there are out there, and in what products, and just so you can kind of see. I mean, we all see color differently. And this one I'm gonna see if I can shake up a little bit, because I can tell the binder is, it's just the pigment's not mixed up a whole lot. I'm gonna just squirt out a little bit more. That's better. And so again, a gouache where it acts similar to a watercolor and has the opacity sometimes more like acrylic paint. So that's a super pretty shade as well. And then, so now that you've seen sort of some of the purples and some of the products that I've used, I'm gonna share one last product, and that is, well, so from the video that I had just posted, I had taught you all how I love to get this reticulated pattern by using acrylic inks and this particular paper. It's sort of like a plasticky cardstock. Papers that are similar to this would be like a yupo paper or a craft plastic paper, but it's all about experimentation. And I achieved this effect so simply, and I just wanted to share that with you all again, because this is my Deep Violet acrylic ink by Liquitex. I really like Liquitex permanent inks, and this is something I'm going to show you right now. You can also just see the colors kind of compared to the other ones that we have here on our paper. I'm just going to set this aside. And so I had showed you all, I had purchased these on Amazon Canada when I was designing my artist cards that I had just showed at the beginning of my video, my art poetry cards. And I had used some of these just to kind of get a feel for this type of cardstock. You know, I was thinking, what if I created my own, you know, all original deck? Is this the kind of cardstock I would like? Is this the size? You know, would it be easy to shuffle? And I just started playing with these and using my reticulated technique, which is also called dendritic. Now there's a lot of wonderful YouTube videos on achieving this technique, which I have discovered from doing a little Google search. I couldn't believe how much was out there. But I'm just gonna show you, I'm just gonna put a little bit of this Deep Violet Liquitex acrylic ink after having shaken it. And I'm just gonna, I used just a couple droplets. And I took these blank tarot cards and I just went right over top and I pushed down. You're gonna sometimes need a paper towel. If you're first doing this and you're not sure how much ink to put down because it does squeeze out of the sides. You can see it's coming out there. And I'm gonna catch it. And I'm just gonna pull it apart and show you what I got. So isn't that just the most interesting pattern? Both sides are similar in composition, the mirror image, but also different in how, how kind of the air got in between maybe the pigment load and kind of where the pigment was landing. So many different ways of this kind of coming to be. But this was a mirror image pull. So I had done the same thing before doing a video with you all, where I had just taken the card off and I dripped it down because naturally it was wanting to drip. And you can just see this pattern is so different than this pattern. This reminds me very much of a beautiful petal. And then of course these, let's just say you were trying to achieve more like, I mean, these would be beautiful little paintings. They would be beautiful artist trading cards, just beautiful gift cards. The possibilities are endless. And that just took all of, you know, less than a minute to drop onto our page some ink onto a particular substrate, these tarot cards that just happen to be cardstock that's kind of glossy and just the right thickness to kind of get this effect. Now you can get this effect in many ways, but I just wanted to show you how I like to do it with these little cards. What I would do is, I like experimenting. So this is Pale Lilac Acrylic Gouache, and I'm just gonna go on right over top, just with a tiny little bit. And maybe a little bit down there is not to waste it. And then I might just add a little bit of, say, I don't know, maybe my magenta gouache. And you can use acrylic paint. What I'm doing is I'm just looking for something that's not the same consistency as this very liquid acrylic ink. I'm gonna go with an acrylic paint, or in this case, because I have it handy, this gouache. I'm just gonna go right over top. And that's probably a bit too much. It's very generous, but I get excited. And what I'm gonna do is just show you how I really loved the effect up here, but I wanna just keep the process, keep the experimentation going, and maybe just put this card down over top And squeezing, I can feel some of the paint under there and just pushing it out and then pulling it up. And then check that out. That is so beautiful and so interesting. And I'm realizing how much I love that gorgeous magenta gouache number 115 that left some of the transparency in this card. Let's just take this one and go back over top, maybe kind of like this. And this is just such a relaxing process. It's a process of discovery and of maybe trying supplies that you haven't used much of. And then here I'm liking this so much better already than the first, pull. I'm just gonna set this one, just trying to decide if I want to do anything more on that. I might use a little bit of my acrylic paint. So I might just use this color. This is whole bean paint. You can use any type of acrylic paint. Even, you can use these deco art paints. Actually, I can just even use this to show you all. And this color would be really interesting mixed in. So you're gonna wanna shake this up because this is a more affordable kind of craft paint, but it's also wonderful to mix with, say, a really high quality white paint. And if you're on a budget, that's a great kind of way you can make the more affordable paint go further. So adding a higher quality white paint to this type of paint, that way you've spent a little bit more on one of the paints, but when you mix them, I mean, nobody would really know except you. So I'm just gonna do, that's quite a big drop. I'm gonna just see if I can cover up that mark, and I'm just gonna go down over top, push down, and then just pull up. And just seeing that really pretty coral blush color, and for a very affordable paint that's very pigmented. So let's just try to take these wet marks and then put them on a new substrate. So you could take another card, maybe try it in a different kind of, maybe landscape, horizontal instead of a vertical pull. You can do that, or you can switch over to see. I'm gonna just switch over to like a piece of watercolor paper. So this is still a bit wet. I'm just gonna move these to the side. Oh, and actually there's my watercolor paper that I was looking for. And so this is a very affordable Artist Loft 140 pounds cold press watercolor paper from Michaels. Artist Loft is Michaels' in-house brand, and I'm gonna take this one because it has quite a bit of paint on it. And let's just say I had some watercolor on here. So I'm just gonna go into my gold and my wild salmon beam paints, and maybe, what was that one? Was that gold? Oh, sorry, pumpkin spice was that first one. And then Wild Salmon was this one. And then maybe I'll just go into, I don't know, Orca, because it's one of my favorites and it's just interesting. So I've put some watercolor down, and now I'm just gonna run with this fun experimentation and not really overthink what it's gonna look like. I'm gonna push down some of that acrylic paint into the watercolor and pull it up. And it gave me a very different color combination, some really interesting marks. And again, this could be a background to a new painting. And if, for instance, you weren't really enjoying what this looks like, you can go back to it, maybe add, let's just see, maybe you want to add, I'm just going to be bold and add Whispering Turquoise. Another Deco Art paint, just a little bit there. And let's just, we can move this one aside. And maybe, let me just see here, maybe do, I'm going to grab another card. So this is watercolor paper, and now I'm going back with my tarot card that's sort of a more plasticky cardstock, and just going over top. And I keep that corner up so I can easily pull it off. And there we go, another interesting base where we've broken the blank page. Maybe you look at this and you're like, oh, I really miss, say, that gorgeous magenta, that gouache. So what we would do is just, I'm just gonna add that back in down here, and maybe go to another card, or maybe another paper that you have laying around, tissue paper, or, you know, maybe some printer paper, whatever you have, maybe black toned paper. And you're just gonna kind of keep doing this process until you feel like you've had enough. And when these dry, these become new, kind of broken, you know, you've broken the blank page, there's new jumping off points, there's experiments that, you know, you have kind of discovered because of this process. So I'm just gonna set these aside. So again, this is like a deli paper. So I'm just gonna go over top. This is really thin, but this is deli paper, which is great for collage. And you can see, I would use this to go maybe over top of my art poetry watercolor paintings as collage, or maybe put this into, or over top of a canvas, say I was working on. So the possibilities are, I mean, endless, and all of it will come out so unique to your own style. I'm not really enjoying what's going on here, so I'm just gonna add more blue, maybe here and here. And we could just add in maybe some of this Liquitex bronze. I really like how this goes into paintings with that reticulated or dendritic pattern. I've seen that pattern almost like frost outside on my windshield. I've seen that pattern when I would pour, say, a glass of kefir, that sort of thicker milk product, and when you pour out the kefir out of your glass, it leaves this pattern on the side of the glass you're drinking from. Whoops, this reticulated pattern. So you'll discover this pattern in kind of day-to-day life. And so again, this just turned into something a bit different. And And I like this better now than what it was prior. And what I would do is, because I enjoyed what it looked like on the tissue paper, you know, maybe I would try, maybe this is like a mulberry paper. Maybe I would just go over top with my mulberry paper, which I've kind of been experimenting with for collage. And actually that reminds me of wanting to share an artist with you all. So thank you to Cindy, one of my amazing followers, supporters. She had recently recommended watching a YouTube video because I was really interested in the last few months of doing collage botanical work. And she introduced me to Maribeth Quinn, and I am gonna link her in the description, but she has just been such a wonderful YouTube person to watch. Her class has been amazing, and that's why I have this mulberry paper here laying around, just because with her class she goes through different papers you can use for doing kind of loose botanicals, specific to more watercolor, but I won't kind of give away the class. You can watch the class description on her videos, but Maribeth Quinn, and I really enjoyed a video that I had watched yesterday, which was all about her discussing slowing down and feeling like she was always rushed to complete paintings, and she couldn't quite pinpoint why she felt rushed. And it was just about how she learned to embrace the process of artwork and kind of finishing this piece on canvas and turning off that feeling like she has to rush. And it just really resonated with me because I work quickly, and I know that I value productivity in my life, which is sort of a societal pressure, and she talks about that. But it just really made me appreciate, I'm just trying to get this Bahama blue out. I just really enjoyed kind of listening to her talk about the process of, you know, her feelings and how she slows down. So I'll see if I can put that video in my description. This paint has kind of dried out. I really wanted to add some of that paint. I might switch over to a different one. And again, when these dry, you can do mark making over top, just like we've been doing mark making over watercolor and acrylic in other videos. I almost see a bird, like almost like a beak here and a wing. Really neat how you can start to see things in these kind of abstract works. You can collage these out and, you know, use them in a different way for a different work. But when they dry, you can also repeat this process and start layering. So I just wanted to share that because this is a practice that you can kind of do over and over, and it's so much fun. And it's funny because I was gonna try and use more purples, which I will get to, and I got excited and added other colors. Okay. There is another artist I wanted to share with you all, and her name is Gaynor Pattle, P-A-T-T-L-E, and I will also link her in my YouTube description. I have just really enjoyed her videos. She does weekly art videos, and I find them very inspirational. She's very relaxed. She's very inspiring, and I just love her her style, her artist style. She seems like a lovely person, and possibly if you like my videos, you will also like Gaynor Paddle. Possibly you're already following her. And what I want to share with you now is, well, I'll show you, so these color cards. I had recently purchased these color cards on Amazon Canada. Break out of the color wheel, 200 cards to mix and match and plan. And it comes with a wonderful kind of map of, you know, how to use this, how to use these cards. It's just really awesome. It's still kind of over my head, but for the purpose of just today, I'll show you how I was using this deck. I'm looking to see, where did I put the lid? Yeah, I'm not sure where I put the lid, but I will link this fellow's name in the description. I think it was, yeah, I'll just have to link it for you all. But I had pulled out these cards, and I just tried to pull out the purple hues. I don't know if I'm saying that right. These are very much, this is blue violet, so this is too blue for what I'm going to be talking about today. But we have violet, and I just want to show you, these cards are really great because they're alphabetized. Violet as the pure color, this would be considered the pure color violet. So I'll let you kind of look at that with some of the paints that I had here. And 13B is violet when you add white, which is tinting the color. Another tint, adding a little bit less white and just seeing what you get. Violet, so if you want to tone a color, you want to add gray. So this is with the addition of gray, as well as this one. And then if you want to do a shade of a color, you add black. So these are examples of the addition of black to the pure violet hue. And then of course that's the addition of more black. So you're looking at tints, tones, and shades of the pure color. And it's really great because on here it talks about complementary colors, split complementary colors, monochromatic and analogous, you know, those colors that, for instance, sit beside violet on the color wheel. Complementary, as an example, yellow is the complementary of purple because it's across from purple on the color wheel. These cards I think will be great for me because I just really wanted to learn more about color theory and mixing instead of buying colors that I just like. Now, so this is red violet. So I'll just give you an example. This is red violet in its pure color. And then I'm gonna move this just so you can see. That's the pure color. And then this is red violet, where you're tinting it with some white. Again, a little bit less white. You're toning it, adding gray, a little bit less gray, and then you're shading it, adding black. So I feel like this is like when you would go to Home Depot or the hardwood store and you'd see all those awesome little swatches of like paint swatches. But there are, again, 200 cards in here, and it's just kind of neat because when I was thinking about purple and how to mix it, you know, I looked up that YouTube video and happened to find Louise Fletcher. But, you know, this is just a really great kind of tactile way of learning color. I also want to go through this with my son because he's really interested in these cards and learning about color theory. So here is the pure color of purple. So that's 15A. 15B is, there's the tint, a little bit less of the tint. This is adding gray. I love how it's alphabetized. Adding more gray, 15E, adding black. 15F, and then adding more black. And this purple resonates with me more because it leans on sort of the reddish, kind of the reddish magenta side. And so if you're interested in these cards, yeah, they're just, I think they're a lot of fun, and I hope to use them in some of my work. So what I want to do is show you how I like to kind of start some of my paintings. I'm just looking for another glove. And so since you were all craving purple, I thought I'd go crazy and just use this as my background. So I'm just going to zoom you out, and let's just say you were swatching along with me. Whatever you have in front of you, we're going to paint over. So in order to break a blank page, what I want to do is, let's just get a little bit of that awesome reticulated texture and use this as almost like, not a palette knife, but like our, how do you say, we're going to be shaking up. If you have an acrylic ink or an acrylic paint, I'll do one with acrylic ink. So I'm just going to put a fair bit on here and not overthink it. And what I might do is, whoops, see, I get pretty messy. So I'm just going to get that reticulated pattern. And you may decide that that's so beautiful, you just want to keep it like that. You can see this one came out a little bit more interesting. I see that as like a butterfly wing. And I'm going to just put this right over top of my watercolor swatch and lift it off and push it down again and lift it off, and you can see this changing. So it has less pigment on here. I'm going to just let this one dry, and you know what? No, maybe I will do just one more. I'm going to put it down, pick it up, and then you're seeing that reticulated pattern kind of coming onto your paper. Let's just say you have an acrylic paint. For me, I'm gonna just stick with, this is a Lilac by Holbein, so it's a slightly more opaque. It's acrylic paint, so it's different than the acrylic ink. And let's just use maybe a little bit of white. I really like this Abstract by Sennelier. These tubes, they do dry out a little bit. So you don't want to have them sitting around too long. You want to, you know, if you buy them, you want to use them. And I'm just putting a dollop, very technical. And I'm just gonna take this card and kind of smush it down. Maybe I'll just turn this for interest. And I'm just gonna smush it down, knowing I'm gonna make a mess. It's gonna kind of come out the other side. I'm gonna lift up and do it again. Just repeat that process. And you can see the texture I'm getting from that more opaque acrylic paint on this card. We'll just let that dry. Then I'm gonna go back and use this card, or actually I'm gonna use, yeah, no, I am gonna use this card. I'm gonna go back over top of this area because it has so much paint there. And I'm really just playing around with paint and this technique. Uh-oh, did I get it? Uh-oh, I need to put on an apron. Oh, my mom gave me this really nice shirt and she's gonna be watching my video. I've got to get my apron on right now. So if you're creating with me, you're basically taking paint and smushing it between different surfaces. Hopefully you have a surface similar to these cards, but I'm going to show you if you don't have that surface, you can also use, I think it works on Bristol paper. So I'm going to just set this over here and this is Bristol paper. So it's acid-free, heavyweight for finished artwork, dry media. It is by Strathmore and it's an 11 by 14 inch size and it's 100 pounds. Now this has a vellum surface, which is very similar to those cardstock that I was showing you from, very similar to this, I think. So let's just try it. Just gonna set those aside. And let's just, I'm gonna get the apron right now. I said that, and now I'm gonna get the apron. Okay. I'm really bad. I don't usually wear art aprons, but I see if I can figure out how to put this one on that my aunt gave me. It's super cute. Just it's one of those ones that goes over your head and you have to figure out what armhole goes where. Good thing you can just see my hands in my video. Okay, so we're gonna see if we can get that reticulated pattern on the Bristol paper. And so what I'm gonna do, just move my watercolors, and this actually is still kind of attached with some glue up here. So I'm gonna use that to my advantage. And I'm gonna smush the paper in between. And I'm gonna use the bronze just because that shows up really well. And let's just use, for fun, we'll just try a couple other inks. This Dr. P.H. Martin's Bombay ink, which is composed of different materials. So there's that magenta, or sorry, that's red violet in P.H. Martin, Dr. P.H. Martin. Here's a little bit of yellow orange. So this is a really great way if you feel like creating, but you just don't know where to start. You might be sitting in front of a canvas or, you know, have some paper on hand. And hopefully it's, you know, again, it will turn out differently depending on what your substrate is made of. Wow, I've really got a lot of ink over here. I'm not sure if it's cracked there. Just gonna clean that up. You can just see, just gonna show you that ink, how pretty it looks when it's activated with water. And then we're gonna go ahead and close these pages. So if you're doing this process, remember that you're gonna get some coming around the edges, especially if it's the first few times. Sometimes you use a little too much paint. If you're like me, you get excited. And then I'm gonna pull it back. And that is a beautiful, beautiful page. So I'm gonna just take off my glove and I'll keep one of them on. So So this just kind of appeared from playing with those inks, and this is again Bristol paper. You can see I have the mirror image. And I would, because I see it's quite wet here, I'm gonna curve my page and drip it. And I really like that. I feel like this could be an art poetry painting. So I'm gonna take the other one. The fun thing is you have like a duplicate copy mirror image. So if the drip didn't work on the other one, it probably won't work on here. Or if you need practice, you have the opportunity to do it on both. This looks like a heart. And with February, with Valentine's Day coming, that's just so cool that this heart appeared to me. And what I would do is probably not cover this up because it's just so pretty. I would turn this into a painting. So I'm gonna just set that aside and let it dry. And I want to go back and show you, this was kind of like a practice page. And this is my Canson mixed media foil book that I had showed you at the beginning. And I'm going to tear this out. So this is, again, taking that cardstock and putting it on with watercolor as a base. The paper was watercolor. And then we just did it where we were using the Bristol paper. And these are great starting points to do abstract paintings. So what I want to show you, I like to work on several at a time. So I'm just going to grab my Bristol paper. And I can use this one as well. Maybe we can just I'll do another example. So again, I'm going to use my bronze, iridescent rich bronze. And we'll just get that bronze down, maybe in a few different areas. And because you all wanted me to crave purple, I'm going crazy. There's some deep violet. And I'm gonna just add a little bit of water, just a little bit, to this area. So when it touches the water, it will give me less of the reticulated pattern and more of a beautiful watery pattern. This is Dr. P.H. Martin's, again, the red violet India ink. I'm gonna just drop it in and just look at that. So beautiful. I'm gonna just put a drop up here. And then I'm gonna also maybe drop in a bit of yellow, just wherever. This is Liquitex Yellow Orange Azo. And then we're gonna do the same trick, go over top. And again, you can go over top with, doesn't have to be Bristol paper. I just find the Bristol paper, it's like, I know some artists or creatives achieve this effect by putting the paint between two panes of glass or plexiglass, or that's another way you can get this reticulated effect. So this is using Bristol paper. And this turned out really well, but I would be less worried about covering it up because personally I think my first pull turned out best. And so here we go with this awesome broken page essentially. And I'm just gonna show you what I like to do. So I'm just gonna do a quick change of my table setting. I'm gonna get my skewer. And I want to show you, I'll show you a few ways I like to just really paint intuitively. So I'm gonna just move a bunch of stuff off my palette here. I've got a lot going on. And just see if we can and voila, Joan Wolfram. So that is who made this essential color card deck that you can get on Amazon. And there is the color wheel. It was hiding under my mess, my creative mess. And it really is, it's gonna take me a while to kind of learn about color, but they've made it in a way that is super thoughtful and easy for people like me who just have never really done much with color theory. So it talks about the hue, 15A for example, and then tinting it with white to get 15B and C, and then toning it with gray, 15D and E, and then last but not least is the shades where you're adding black. It talks about really everything that you need to know with color theory. So that's just a great little deck. And when I work on Bristol paper, I'm just gonna see, what do I have underneath here? This is already well loved, this Canson paper. So I'm just gonna move around my water. Just clean off my brush. I have paper towels handy. And we'll just kind of have fun here. See how much space I can get so you can all see. So let's start painting. This is kind of fun because it's given us a jumping off point. Do we want a landscape or do we want something more vertical? Maybe we want to have one in landscape mode and one vertical. So we could try that. And just trying to decide, is that what I would like? One vertical and yes, one horizontal. Okay, we'll do that. Now, there's so many things that we can do here. What I would do is, what I've been teaching in some of my videos lately is picking a brush that you like the shape of. I really like the shape of this. This is called a filbert brush, which is like a rounded kind of oval shaped brush. It's well loved actually. It's coming away from the base. And to be honest, I don't think I can actually see who made this brush. I just purchased it at one of the local art stores, but you can get filbert brushes anywhere. So just a basic brush. Use what you have. Use, you know, a brush that you find at the hardware store. You can use, you know, say you had purchased something like this starfish that I got for our shower. You can use this as like a scraping tool. I really like this for scraping, but I'm gonna try and keep it simple, and we're just gonna let go and play over this broken page. And again, I paint fairly quickly, but I've just been really craving painting with acrylics and purple hues. What I'm gonna do is start with, let's just see, definitely gonna keep my white handy. I'm gonna see if I can go through some of these paints. I'm not sure if they're dry yet, but I'm just gonna use some paint that I have. So this is Violet by Pebeo. See if I can get the lid off. That's also a challenge. Okay, I can't get the lid off. Okay, I'm gonna go with the Liquitex Basics in Violet. And I'm just gonna squeeze it right out onto my painting. If there was an area I loved on here, I would avoid covering it up, but I'm okay with what it looks like. And then this one is, again, Liquitex Basics Dioxazine Purple. Let's see if it's dried up. It has dried up, so we'll keep it simple, and we're gonna use the ones that I have down. I really love magenta with purple, and I'm gonna use this deep magenta by Michael's Artist Loft and just put a little bit of magenta up here. And I'm just kind of choosing colors to just dab on. A little bit of yellow, which is across from purple on the color wheel, sort of a complementary color. I'm gonna get my brush wet, and I'm just gonna start by getting color down on the Bristol paper and deciding how I feel when I'm getting the color down, which is, I used a lot of yellow and it's very bright, but I really enjoy how there's a transparency where you can almost go over. It's drying so fast. So I'm just kind of adding in yellow in different areas underneath, and I'm gonna switch over and just kind of put some yellow in different areas on here, and I'm gonna move it back. And now I'm gonna go into the beautiful magenta, and I'm really enjoying the brush mark that I see and the colors. They're so beautiful. I mean, you can't go wrong with magenta, but I'm gonna try not to continue brushing out all of that beautiful transparency that I'm getting, that light pink and more of like the burnt orange. It's so pretty. So I'm gonna just stop and move over to my horizontal landscape. That's kind of what I'm thinking, and I'm repeating that to see if I can get some of that same effect. And I'm gonna just pick up a little bit more. This is that purple, and I'm gonna add the purple. I couldn't get that same effect. Oh, but there we go. There it is there. So I can see it coming. I don't want to cover up that area. It's really pretty. So I'm just gonna grab some more of that purple over here and just kind of brush it on. And I see that beautiful, almost like petal-like shape of my filbert brush. And I see transparency, colors peeking through, and I really enjoy that. And I'm gonna switch back and making sure my brush strokes are not all going in the same direction. I'm gonna go into this darker purple now. And I'm trying not to blend it too much, not trying to blend it out. So I'm avoiding, I'm trying to keep some of the color that I see, and I'm avoiding kind of making it all blend together. So I'm just not thinking about what it's gonna be. I'm just getting some energy into my mark making. You can see I picked up some of the Liquitex bronze acrylic ink, and I'm leaving some of that yellow to poke through. I'm blending it. I've now created a new color from mixing the purple and yellow, and I love it. I'm not thinking at all about what this is gonna be. I'm leaving a little bit of room around the outside just as to not make too much of a mess. You can tape the outside if you want with like a painter's tape. And I'm gonna wet my brush a little bit and just see if I can get more transparency. And just gonna blend out this top area. And I'm already really enjoying what I have to work with here, which is, you know, some really beautiful colors. And I'm gonna flip over to this one. I can see that I need to add white at some point in time. I am gonna just pick up a little bit of the dark purple from here and maybe add it over here. Or I'm gonna drop a bit of this deep violet to get more of a transparent purple on here. That is so pretty. And this, I'm realizing, is my horizontal kind of landscape. So I already have a lot of up and down motion here. So I'm just gonna kind of go across the bottom. I might add in a different color for fun, but I think I'm gonna switch over to adding white. And at this point, I'm gonna just enjoy the process and incorporate, you can incorporate etching. So this is a skewer. And so just with energy, I'm just gonna add in some interest. So you can see, I really like how that is popping through. And so you could, you know, almost repeat that if you wanted. If you felt like you played with it too much, you can bring back what you had done prior and kind of get rid of, if you feel like it was just too much etching, you know, too busy, you can go back over top while the paint is still wet. Or if you liked it, you can do more. So at this point, I'm gonna go over here and I'm just gonna see if I can do some kind of line work. And I'm gonna just get that paint off my arm. And I'm gonna grab my, well, I'm gonna go with my white. Maybe I wanna add in a darker green now. So just something different. And this just happened to be sitting out. So I'm gonna be bold and just add in some of this color. I'm just gonna add in a bit and see what I think. And this is the Viridian Hue by Holbein, their acrylic paint. And just trying to decide if I like it. I like it, but I think I'll like it more with white. I really enjoy sort of that dry brush look over here. So I'm gonna switch over to this painting and I'm gonna add some white and mix right on here. I'm just gonna put some white. And again, I'm using that filbert brush to get that really neat kind of, how do you say, like petal. And I'm just gonna kind of add energy into the painting and kind of just mixing things up just to see what I get. And again, I work quite quickly and I liked adding in the white. I feel like I need to do maybe a little bit of mark making up at the top here. And so because I enjoyed the white, I'm gonna go and do that over here. But first I'm gonna go back in with my skewer and just add some of that energy back in. Too much down here, so I'm gonna fade it out. And I'm liking that more. So it's sort of a constant back and forth. And I'm gonna just leave some of that dark, but adding quite a bit of white. You could always switch over at this point to, you know, one of these, like a cardboard card, and just looking at the variety that you get by just playing around with a new mark making tool. don't know how much I like that. I like it when it was all white, kind of like that. So what I would do is go back to, here's my white. Oh, there goes a painting. Just gonna add some white, maybe. Try not to mix it too much. And I'm gonna just flip back over here. I'm gonna cover this area up because I just don't enjoy what I had done there. Maybe adding some water to my brush and just seeing what color I get. I'm gonna add a bit more water. I'm kind of adding some smooth areas to this painting that has quite a bit going on. And I actually like that blue, that it was that Viridian kind of mixed in. And so I'm just adding that blue almost right down to the bottom. I'm gonna get a bit of water and then blend in some of that blue over here. And I'm just blending the colors right on the painting. And I'm not thinking about this painting having to be anything at this point. I'm just simply enjoying the process of kind of letting go and just discovering what marks I like. And I think I'm gonna blend in some of this area as well. I've got a lot of paint. I added a lot of white, so I'm very generous with paint when I paint. And I really like that white up here, and I'm gonna add that back in, but not with this brush because it has too much blue. So I'm just gonna set this over here and work on this painting and decide what I like. Don't know if I want to add in more of that blue. I kind of like the gray that I'm getting. I'm just gonna paint around the edges because that's what is kind of calling me. Good thing I put on my apron. Hey, Mom. Okay, so now I want to go back in and I think I want to add more white. Maybe, let's just see. Yes. We'll switch back and I'm gonna be bold because there's a lot of white here and I like those kind of palette knife type marks. I'm just gonna turn this over and see if we can get some of that here and then lift off. Oh, that's actually really, really interesting what just happened. So just discovering the way the paint was drying and how there's layers underneath, you know, because if I was to etch in, you can just see those under layers. just doing some kind of circular marks in there. And I feel like, so when I get to this point, I remind myself I don't have to love it. I just have to learn kind of, you know, take some of what I'm doing and learn how I enjoy the feel of it, or if I don't care for it, learn how some of those colors blended. I really liked being brave and taking a risk and getting some texture down there. And so what I'm gonna do is I'll probably let these dry. I do want to add a bit more white though up in that corner. So let's just see if I have, I have another brush. I have my roller, which I could use. Just gonna see, no, I don't know if I want to do that. Okay, I'm just gonna clean off my brush, which I'm gonna use the back of this cardboard tag just to get a bit of that blue color off before I dip it in the water. Okay, and then I'm just gonna, I really like the shape of the filbert brush, and I'm feeling like I might want to add a little bit back in. Just trying to decide where. So I'm liking the painting more, got a bit more of the white going, just kind of lightening up a bit in certain areas, and just letting go of wanting it to be anything in particular. But I feel like this could become a really interesting landscape. And, you know, I could etch in smaller mark making at this point in time. Possibly you know, just the benefits of working quickly is, you know, you can kind of etch in different areas. Maybe I want to do, don't know if I like that a whole lot. And just deciding, I think I'm gonna just take a little break and let this one dry. And then if we were to go back to this one, and I'm just feeling like, again, I want to add more white. And I want that kind of filbert brush appearance. So the other thing with Bristol paper is it can hold a lot of paint. And so I'm just gonna get a little bit on my brush and kind of flick a little bit just through some of this, just to get more of a white. Just lighten things up a bit. And not covering it all up, but just kind of definitely getting more texture. And then adding back areas that I really liked. I might add a little bit of this Bombay ink and just brighten up this area here. And realized it becomes more of an opaque, because I had so much white on my brush, I kind of lost the effect I was going for, but that's okay. It's just like experimental. what I was wanting to do was add a little bit more of the Liquitex ink. I'm just going to use my watercolor brush and kind of get that beautiful transparency back in some of the painting. Kind of those pops of that color. Just remembering, if you ever use acrylic ink with your watercolor brush, I don't recommend it. It can be really hard on the brush. And I think, you know, just looking at, I really like this coral blush. Just gonna wet my brush a little bit and put some on. And add, you can see there's a little bit up here already. I just want to add a bit in. And again, I'm not really wanting this to be anything except sort of experimenting. I see that adding that in was not my favorite thing, and so I'm just gonna stop adding that in and clean off my brush. And it's now becoming more of a gray, which I like. And maybe going over that with like magenta. So I'll go back to this magenta, this Artist Loft. I suppose I could do a different color altogether. I'm just seeing, I don't know if that's quite what I want to do. But I think I'm gonna just leave it there, and I wanted to show you just, whoops, how to kind of paint loosely on Bristol paper. I'm just adding more mark making in here. Maybe too much. So I'm just gonna smooth out some of that. I almost see this could be a really pretty flower, and maybe a little flower in that area. I'm just gonna step back and see it in a different way, see it from further away. I realize I have a lot of paint on me. I'm just gonna get that off. And I was trying to think of, yeah, today I just really felt like painting with acrylics and painting loose and more free. And so this was one of the paintings that we had done. We had also been working on this kind of loose landscape, which I'll go back to and just decide, you know, what areas I want to keep and what I don't. And then it was kind of fun. So seeing these dry, these are going to be wonderful bases to go back and do mark making on. I just found an example of one of my acrylic paintings I just finished not that long ago. So it's really loose. I did have some beautiful kind of reddish, red violet colors in there. And yeah, you can just see some of the mark making and etching, and we used some of those same colors today, which was interesting. You can just see the texture with the collage, and the paper bag, and my stamping, sort of a pop of bright. And then again, just some really beautiful little cards that kind of came out of playing around. And so I hope you enjoyed this video. This video was a little bit longer than I normally do. Well, I don't know, actually, it's been, yeah, about an hour and a half. But when I get into painting just for the enjoyment, I just love to let go. And so thank you so much for being here with me. I hope you had fun along the way, and we will see you all soon.